Hi there, welcome. You've entered your favorite, safe, quiet corner of the internet. I want you to shake the day off because the world can wait. Now please take a deep breath in with me and out. Thank you. Tonight I am reading some passages from Jazz by Toni Morrison. So let's get started. Breathing hurts and weather that cold. But whatever the problems have been winter-bound in the city, they put up with them because it is worth anything to be on Lenox Avenue, safe from Faze and the things they think up. Where the sidewalks, snow-covered or not, are wider than the main roads of the towns where they were born and perfectly ordinary people can stand at a stop, get on the streetcar, give the man a nickel, and ride anywhere you please. Although you don't please to go many places, because everything you want is right where you are. The church, the store, the party, the women, the men, the post box, but no high schools. The furniture store, street newspaper vendors, the bootleg houses, but no banks. The beauty parlors, the barber shops, the juke joints, the ice wagons, the rag collectors, the pool halls, the open food markets, the number runner, and every club, organization, group, order, union, society, brotherhood, sisterhood, or association imaginable. The service trails, of course, are worn, and there are paths slick from the forays of members of one group into the territory of another, where it is believed something curious or thrilling lies. Some gleaming, crack, and scary stuff, where you can pop the cork and put the cold grass mouth right up to your own, where you can find danger or be it, where you can fight till you drop and smile at the knife when it misses, and when it doesn't, it makes you wonderful just to see it, and just as wonderful to know that back in one's own building there are lists drawn up by the wives for the husband hunt in an open market, and that she's impossible to hang out in snowfall draped kitchens like the curtains of the Abyssinian Sunday school plays. The young are not so young here, and there's no such thing as midlife. 60 years, 40 even, is as much as anybody feels like being bothered with. If they reach that or get very old, they sit around looking at goings on as though it were a 5-cent triple feature on Saturday. Otherwise, they find themselves buttoned in the business of people whose names they can't even remember and whose business is none of theirs. Just to hear themselves talk and the joy of watching the distressed faces of those listening. I've known a few exceptions. Some old people who didn't slap the children for being slappable, who saved their strength in case it was needed for something important. A last kerchief full of smiles and little presents, or the dedicated care of an old friend who might not make it through without them. Sometimes they concentrated on making sure the person they had shared their long lives with had cheerful company and the necessary things for the night. But up there on Lenox, in Violet's and Joe Trace's apartment, The rooms are like the empty bird cages wrapped in cloth. It had bird cages and mirrors for the birds to look at themselves in. But now, of course, there are no birds. Violet hadn't let them out the night she went to Dorcas' funeral with a knife. Now there are just empty cages and lonely mirrors glancing back at them. The notion of rest is attractive to her, but I don't think she would like it. They're all like that, these women, waiting for the ease, the space that need not be filled with anything other than the drift of their own thoughts. But they wouldn't like it. They are busy and thinking of ways to be busier, because such a space of nothing present to do would knock them down. No fields of cowslips will rush into that opening, nor mornings free of flies and heat when the light is shy. No, not at all. They fill their minds and hands with soap and repair the dicey confrontations, because what is waiting for them in a suddenly idle moment is the seep of rage, molten, thick and slow moving, mindful in particular about what in its path it chooses to bury, or else into a beat of time, and sideways under their breasts slips a sorrow they did not know where from. A neighbor returns the spool of thread she borrowed, and not just the thread, but the extra long needle too. And both of them stand in the door frame a moment while the borrower repeats for the lender a funny conversation she had with a woman on the floor below. It is funny, and they laugh, one loudly while holding her forehead, the other hard enough to hurt her stomach. The lender closes the door, and later, still smiling, touches the label of her sweater to her eye to wipe the traces of the laughter away. Then drops to the arm of the sofa, the tears coming so fast she needs 2 hands to catch them. So Violet sprinkles the collars and cuffs, then suds with all her heart those 3 or 4 ounces of gray hair, soft and interesting as a baby's. Not the kind of baby hair her mother had soaped and played with and remembered for 40 years. The hair of the little boy who got his name from it. Maybe that is why Violet is a hairdresser. All those years of listening to her rescuing grandmother, True Belle, tell Baltimore stories. The years with Miss Vera Louise in the fine stone house on Edison Street, where the linen was embroidered with blue thread, and there was nothing to do but raise and adore the blonde boy who ran away from them, depriving everybody of his carefully loved hair. Folks were furious when Violet broke up the funeral, but I can't believe they were surprised. Way before that, before Joe ever laid eyes on the girl, Violet sat down in the middle of the street. She didn't stumble, nor was she pushed. She just sat down. After a few minutes, 2 men and a woman came to her, but then she couldn't make out why or what they said. Someone tried to give her water to drink, but she knocked it away. A policeman knelt in front of her, and she rolled over on her side, covering her eyes. They would have taken her in, but for the assembling crowd murmuring, "Ah, she's tired, let her rest." They carried her to the nearest steps, Slowly, she came around, dusted off her clothes, and got to her appointment an hour later. When Violet threw out the birds, it left her not only without the canary's company and the parrot's confession, but also minus the routine of covering their cages, a habit that had become one of those necessary things for the night. The things that help you sleep all the way through it. Backbreak and labor might do it, or liquor. Surely a body, friendly if not familiar, lying next to you. Someone whose touch is a reassurance, not an affront or a nuisance. Whose heavy breathing neither enrages nor disgusts, but amuses you like that of a cherished pet. And rituals help too. Door locking, tidying up, cleaning teeth, arranging hair. But they are preliminaries to the truly necessary things. Most people want to crash into sleep, get knocked into it with a fist of fatigue to avoid a night of noisy silence. He had struggled a long time with that loss, believed he had resigned himself to it, had come to terms with the fact that old age would be not remembering what things felt like. That you could say, I was scared to death, but you could not retrieve the fear. That you could replay in the brain the scene of ecstasy, of murder, of tenderness, but it was drained of everything but the language to say it in. He thought he had come to terms with that, but he had been wrong. When he called on Sheila to deliver her Cleopatra order, he entered a room full of laughing, teasing women, and there she was, standing at the door, holding it open for him. The same girl that had distracted him in the drugstore. The girl buying candy and ruining her skin had moved him so his eyes burned. Then, suddenly, there in Elise Maverin's doorway, she stood, toes pointing in, hair braided, not even smiling, but welcoming him in for sure. For sure. Otherwise, he would not have had the audacity, the nerve to whisper to her at the door as he left. Waiting for Violet, with less hesitation than before, Elise wondered why it was so. At 58, with no children of her own, and the one she had access to and responsibility for, dead. She wondered about the hysteria, the violence, the damnation of pregnancy without marriageability. It had occupied her own parents' minds completely for as long as she could remember them. They spoke to her firmly but carefully about her body, sitting nasty, legs open, sitting womanish, legs crossed, breathing through her mouth, hands on hips, slumping at table, switching when you walked. The moment she got breasts, they were bound and resented. A resentment that increased to outright hatred of her pregnant possibilities and never stopped until she married Louis Manfred. When suddenly it was the opposite. Even before the wedding, her parents were murmuring about grandchildren. They could see and hold, while at the same time, and in turn, resenting the tubs showing and growing under the chemises of Elise's younger sisters. Resenting the blood spots, the new hips, the hair, that, and the necessity for new clothes. Oh Lord, girl. The frown when the hem could not be taken down further. The waistband refused another stitch. Growing up under that heated control, Ellie swore she wouldn't, but she did pass it on. She passed it on to her baby sister's only child, and wondered now would she have done so had her husband lived or stayed, or if she had had children of her own. If he had been there by her side, helping her make decisions, maybe she would not be sitting there waiting for a woman called Violet and thinking war thoughts. Although war was what it was, which is why she had chosen surrender and made Dorcas her own prisoner of war. The hat pushed back on her forehead gave Violet a scary look. The common effect of the tea Elise Manfred had given her did not last long. Afterward, she sat in a drugstore sucking malt through a straw, wondering who on earth that other Violet was that walked about the city in her skin, peeped out through her eyes, and saw other things. Where she saw a lonesome chair left like an orphan in a park strip facing the river, that other Violet saw how the ice skim gave the railing's black poles a weapony glint. Where she, last in line at the car stop, noticed a child's cold dress jutting out of a too short hand-me-down coat, that Violet slammed past a white woman into the seat of a trolley 4 minutes late. If she turned away from faces looking past her through restaurant windows, that Violet heard the clack of the plate glass in mean March wind. She forgot which way to turn the key in the lock. That Violet not only knew the knife was in the parrot's cage and not in the kitchen drawer. That Violet remembered what she did not. Scraping marble from the parrot's claws and beak weeks ago. She had been looking for that knife for a month. Couldn't for the life of her think what she'd done with it. But that Violet knew and went right to it. Knew too where the funeral was going on, although it could not have been but one of two places, come to think of it. Still, that Violet knew which of the two and the right time to get there, just before the closing of the casket, when the people who were going to faint fainted, and the women in white dresses were fanning them. And the ushers, young men the same age as the deceased, from the dead girl's junior high school class, with freshly barbered heads and ghost white gloves, gathered, first in a tight knot of 6 and then separated into 2 lines of 3. They moved down the aisle from the back where they had assembled and surrounded the bier. They were the ones that Violet had to push aside, elbow her way into. And they did step aside, thinking maybe this was some last-minute love desperate to make itself known before it couldn't see and might forget the sleeping face it treasured. By then, the usher boys were joined by frowning men who carried that kicking, growling Violet out while she looked on in amazement. She had not been that strong since Virginia, since she loaded hay and handled the mule wagon like a full-grown man. But 20 years doing hair in the city had softened her arms and melted the shield that once covered her palms and fingers. Like shoes taking away the tough leather her bare feet had grown. The city took away the back and arm power she used to boast of, a power that Violet had not lost because she gave the usher boys and the grown men too a serious time. That Violet should not have let the parrot go. He forgot how to fly and just trembled on the sill. But when she ran home from the funeral, having been literally thrown out by the hard-handed boys and the frowning men, "I love you" was exactly what neither she nor that Violet could bear to hear. She tried not to look at him as she paced the rooms, but the parrot saw her and squawked a weak "love you" through the pane. Maybe that Violet, the one who knew where the butcher knife was and was strong enough to use it, had the hips she had lost. But what if that Violet was strong and had hips? Why was she proud of trying to kill a dead girl? And she was proud. Whenever she thought about that Violet and what that Violet saw through her own eyes, she knew there was no shame there, no disgust. No, that Violet is not somebody walking around town, up and down the streets, wearing my skin and using my eyes. No, that Violet is me. The me that hauled hay in Virginia and handled the 4-mule team in the braes. Pain. I seem to have an affection, a kind of sweet tooth for it. Bolts of lightning, little rivulets of thunder, and I, the eye of the storm, mourn in the split trees, hands starving on rooftops, figuring out what can be done to save them since they cannot save themselves without me because, well, it's my storm, isn't it? I break lives to prove that I can mend them back again. And although the pain is theirs, I share it, don't I? Of course, of course. I wouldn't have it any other way, but it is another way. I am uneasy now, feeling a bit false. What, I wonder? Where would I be without a few brilliant spots of blood to ponder? Without aching words that set, then miss the mark? I ought to get out of this place, avoid the window, leave the hole I cut through the door to get in lives instead of having one of my own. It was love in the city that distracted me and gave me ideas, made me think I could speak its loud voice and make that sound human. I missed the people altogether. I thought I knew them and wasn't worried that they didn't really know about me. Now it's clear why they contradicted me at every turn. They knew me all along. Out of the corners of their eyes, they watched me. And when I was feeling most invisible, being tight-lipped, silent, and unobservable, they were whispering about me to each other. They knew how little I could be counted on, how poorly, how shabbily my know-it-all self covered helplessness. That when I invented stories about them, and doing it seemed to me so fine, I was completely in their hands, managed without mercy. I thought I had hidden myself so well as I watched them through windows and doors, took every opportunity I had to follow them, to gossip about and fill in their lives. And all the while, they were watching me. Sometimes they even felt sorry for me, and just thinking about their pity, I want to die. So I missed it altogether. I was sure one would kill the other. I waited for it so I could describe it. I was so sure it would happen. That the past was an abused record with no choice but to repeat itself at the crack, and no power on earth could lift the arm that held the needle. I was so sure, and they danced and walked all over me. Busy, they were. Busy being original, complicated, changeable, human, I guess you'd say. While I was the predictable one, confused in my solitude into arrogance, thinking my space, my view was the only one that was, or that mattered. I got so aroused while meddling, while finger shaping, I overreached and missed the obvious. I was watching the streets, thrilled by the buildings pressing, impressed by style. So glad to be looking out and in on things I dismissed. What went on in hard pockets close to me. I saw the three of them, Phyllis, Joe, and Violet, and they looked to me like a mirror image of Dorcas. Joe and Violet. I believed I saw everything important they did, and based on what I saw, I could imagine what I didn't. How exotic they were, how driven, like dangerous children. That's what I wanted to believe. It never occurred to me that they were thinking other thoughts, feeling other feelings, putting their lives together in ways I never dreamed of. Like Joe, to this moment I'm not sure what his tears were really for, but I do know they were for more than Dorcas. All the while, he was running through the streets in bad weather. I thought he was looking for her. Noel's chamber of gold. That home in the rock. That place. Sunlight got into most of the day. Nothing to be proud of. To show anybody or to want to be in. But I do. I want to be in a place already made for me, both snug and wide open, with a doorway never needing to be closed, a view slanted for light and bright autumn leaves, but not rain, where moonlight can be counted on if the sky is clear and stars no matter what. And below, just yonder, a river called Treason to rely on. I'd love to close myself in the peace left by the woman who lived there and scared everybody, unseen because she knows better than to be seen. After all, who would see her? A playful woman who lived on a rock, who could, without fright, of her looking eyes looking back. I wouldn't mind. Why should I? She has seen me and is not afraid of me. She hugs me, understands me, has given me her hand. I am touched by her, released in secret. Now I know. And now our time is complete. Thank you for being here. You are safe, you are calm, and you are enough. Until next time, stay hydrated and rest well.